it's important for us to note that as we have some conversations, there's information that we put out there that's very that's necessary to remember, that courts having declared themselves in terms of positions on certain issues is in public. It's public information, and courts having declared themselves in one way or the other is also public information. And I'm just going to repeat that. In the minor Kiai case of 2014, which our last guest, Willis Oteno, has very clearly told us that they interrogated this issue, and the result of that case, having gone to the Court of Appeal, is that at the constituency tallying center, the result of the presidential election, the results that have been handed over to the returning officer are final. That was the that was a summation of this entire court case that took place in 2014. And it is from that we then move in terms of what's happening, and the necessity to have a national tallying center then loses all potency. Mm-hmm. And that is the current case that Okeom Tata is asking that, you know what, court was saying. Now, remember, this is not him asking that the court declares the constituency tallying center results as final. They are saying we need to scrap the national tallying center. So this court case, or rather this petition that Okeom Tata brings, takes on a slightly different persona. So we get into those conversations and more. And we're looking into the IEBC this hour again, of course, this being a litmus test for how this newly established IEBC is then going to operate. And we're going to have that conversation this morning with our good friend and journalist, Member of Parliament for Wajir South is Mohammed Adow, and he joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Lou. How are you doing this morning?
Very well. How are you doing?
Good.
Karibu Sana, thank you for being here today. Ready for the polls is the question that we're going to ask. Members of Parliament told us that this IEBC has met the mark, and that after the vetting and the assessing of all of this, have said, you know what, all right, we're going to be assessing the IEBC state of preparedness, and you're going to be here to, of course, you're here to help us understand this a little bit better and a little bit more. But we're going to start off with today's proverb. Mm-hmm. Dennis will share that with you.
And our proverb comes from Senegal, the Madinka people, and this is what they say: if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot do any harm. How would you interpret that?
That enemies outside need a bridge to get in, or a door to get in, or somebody to unlock the latch and let them in. So you should be more wary of the enemies within than those outside.
Yeah, they will always sell you out, eh?
Indeed.
Yeah, well said, well interpreted.
Kabisa. All right. So, see, the IEBC, Mohammed, is at the point where it's gotten put together in terms of its constitution, and now commissioners in place and moving forward. And before you know it, they have to test their mettle with this by-election that's happening tomorrow, and the many questions that are already coming into play in terms of what's going to happen. Will Ethicon and his people then be able to make sure that they are seen and not just doing the things that they should be, but also seen to be doing the things that they should be? Is the IEBC prepared, using this by-election as a measure of preparedness?
Well, the scale is much smaller, in the by-elections than in the general elections in about 20 months or so. But that doesn't say, that's not to say that it is not a test for them. It's a huge test for them, how they conduct the by-elections. Their preparedness will go a long way in instilling confidence in Kenyans that the Ethicon Commission is actually ready to carry out the elections. Any bungles would be really felt and would go a long way in telling Kenyans. It will be a sense of foreboding that the Commission is not ready. The Commission is not up to the task. So this is what they will have to be wary of. So far, we're seeing they're saying funding is available, security coordination with the relevant security agencies are, ongoing. They have everything ready, ballot papers printed and all that. Continuous voter registration also going on. So we are seeing a certain level of readiness on the part of the commission. But I must say again, with a lot of certainty, that yes, the by-elections will go a long way in instilling confidence in the people about the readiness of the commission. But we are walking into the elections with a lot of problems. For example, the voter identification and transmission kits need to be upgraded, as they are the ones that they have right now, and the commission has said it openly, are obsolete and would not work for them. So they need new kits, the KIMS kits. And then we're also going into this election with obsolete maps when it comes to the boundaries of constituencies and wards. And I believe the boundary review being postponed till after the next elections would come as a blot on the conscience of the Electoral Commission and a huge blot on their image as well. Although, again, in their defense, they say they were constituted much later and do not have time to carry out this very, very solemn task. But in terms of representation, which the current constitution is very huge on, the lack or the inability of the commission to carry out boundary reviews would really have a huge impact on confidence in the general elections.
But Mohammed, as you speak about preparation of IEBC, fine, there is the aspect of infrastructure, funding, and everything that they have to put in place. But as you talk about just the by-election that you talk about, there is the aspect of the law. And what do I mean about the law? It's the fact that we have seen what would be civil servants participate in campaigns for candidates during this by-election. And one would have hoped that IEBC would have been in the forefront in saying no to that, addressing themselves to what the law says. And IEBC has been accused of being silent where the law is being broken. Fine, we have seen that individuals have been fined $1 million shillings for what they say, but it is much, much later after Kenyans complained that we have a silent IEBC. So as we talk about preparation, there is the aspect of we're talking about funds that they need for them to be able to do their job, necessary procurement. But how about the other aspect of the law that IEBC is seen to be silent on, especially when it's being broken?
Look, it's not a problem that is just confined to the IEBC. It's a Kenyan problem. And we have to face that. We face that everywhere. We have fantastic laws. Parliament creates some of the best laws, very modern and progressive laws. And the problem is always in the implementation. And that is not a problem just, for IEBC alone. Yes, public servants are involved in politics and they're very wide-eyed about it with no remorse whatsoever. We face it in our constituencies. We face it in our everyday lives. And that's a problem. But again, this is just a symptom of a far wider problem.
What's the wider problem?
Huh?
What's the wider problem?
What?
What's the wider problem if there's a symptom?
The wider problem is we make laws that we do not obey. We do not implement, and anyone can do anything as long as you are in a position of power and influence. So you see permanent secretaries going out there campaigning, cabinet secretaries campaigning, administration officials taking sides in political duels and siding with some of the candidates. I mean, it's a Kenyan thing now. It's part of the culture of impunity.
If that's the case, there's a lot of. I hear what you're saying, but then I would imagine that the lawmaking body would be a little bit more frustrated with the outcomes of legislation that are not followed. That if you spend time and putting your heads together, coming up with the legislation that needs to then be followed for the guiding of the nation. And then you find that this legislation is not being adhered to, that the law essentially is not being followed, that resources have been spent to allow these processes to take place, and then they're not followed. I would expect that these same legislators would be up in arms, or that you would call special sessions, or that you would raise alarm and say, come on, guys, we're not following this.
The politicians you're talking about?
Yes.
Parliament?
Absolutely. You're the same people who make the law, Mohammed. You're the same people who make the law. And then you don't follow the law. So why did you make it in the first place? Why spend the resources?
Oversight is a big joke in this country, and you know that. You should know that by now. I mean, look, I came into politics, as idealistic as ever, and you come and meet these things, and you raise an eyebrow today, tomorrow, slowly turns into frustration, and then suddenly you have to accept it because nobody else around you is concerned, and that's a huge problem. How much hate speech are on our airwaves?
Even as of yesterday,
I'm telling you. How much? Yeah. What is the work of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission? How many people do you see being dragged to court? Let's talk about corruption. What is being done about the massive corruption everywhere? I mean, it's become part of our culture. So impunity.
For example, during sessions of Parliament, and the Speaker of the National Assembly, who essentially is supposed to call things to order, who is supposed to then ensure that legislation and debates then are running possibly, is a governmental position.
From state officials.
Absolutely, state officials. So it would be difficult, I would imagine, because I want to understand, Mohammed, how you do this. We're speaking as fellow journalists, but we're also speaking as friends, but also speaking to you as a member of Parliament. How would you do it? Can you see yourself, for example, calling Moses Wetangula, who is the Speaker of the National Assembly, to order when it comes to political affiliations that he has taken in the public arena, and it is contrary to the laws of conduct? And
the position he holds.
Can you do that? Is it possible for you, as Mohammed Adow, to sit in Parliament today and say, actually, you know what, call to order, Mr. Speaker, sir?
I can and will do it. And I believe that is not the remit of the Speaker of the National Assembly. No doubt about it. Shouldn't be doing that. Colleagues in Parliament have done that, called him out loud. They've done it in the media. But again, it continues.
This is the thing, and because that's why we ask the questions that we do and have this conversation around IEBC today and other things in terms of its preparedness. Because if we're unable to call out some of the things that we see happening so glaringly in society from a legislative point of view, what would happen in terms of then behavior and practice where things have been legislated on? It is in the law that an abrogation of this law could see somebody put in trouble. But we see these things happening every day, and we seem to be, we are okay with it, because if we weren't, we would do something about it. So then what does it say about our lawmaking, and what does it say about our law practice if we are accepting of the things that are clearly against the law? How do we do this?
Look, I am as frustrated as everyone else who is frustrated about this issue. And it's not supposed to be. We've got amazing laws. We've got fantastic laws. And we should do the honor of following our laws. And again, those people in positions of influence, in positions of leadership, I believe have got more responsibility, more moral responsibility to follow these laws. We thought after the 2007 post-election violence and with the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission and the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010, that we've put all those years of impunity behind us. Unfortunately, we're seeing, even a bigger problem than what we had then. And it all says something about the national culture. And when I think about it, and I think about this quite often, it all goes back to public perception of these things. If people are breaking the law when they are in office and holding public office, they should face their Waterloo in the elections. They should get, voted out. But does that happen? No, because we are voting along clan lines. Ethnicity is the major ingredient of the Kenyan politics, and it's the main consideration for somebody getting elected or not elected. When we are talking about the outcomes of elections, we always sum it up by looking at that community, who is it supporting? That community is with this person. Until we change that and we think in unison as Kenyans and think about what is good for our collective our collective being as Kenyans and as a nation, as long as we continue drawing in different directions, you will have this impunity. You will have the flouting of the law. You will have big men who you can't have any say about what they do, however illegal and unlawful it is. And that is the culture we're building and passing on to the generations to come.
You see,
and that is the danger. It's not just a problem for this generation. It's going to be even a bigger problem for the generations to come.
You see, when you talk about preparations for elections, there's something that is critical, which is voter education, So right now we have the ongoing voter registration that is ongoing across the country, but we have not seen a single attempt from IEBC to advertising or just speaking to Kenyans to come out. Fine, we've seen the commission come out, speak once in a while in press conferences, but there are no boots on ground speaking to Kenyans, encouraging the 6.3 million who are being targeted to get out there and register themselves as voters. What do you reckon of that?
I mean, we've seen the big billboards with big pictures of politicians.
Yes, politicians.
To vote.
Politicians.
They're not enough.
But the role is IEBC's.
I'm saying that in jest. Listen, yes, the role is IEBC's, and I think it should go beyond asking people to come and register. It should go as far as educating Kenyans about the power of that vote. I feel sad when and I've covered every election in Kenya since 1997, except the last one, which I was an active participant and I was running for office. So when you see crowds of voters standing outside polling stations, waiting for someone to buy their vote, it really hits me because, and this is what I've been telling my constituents during the time I was campaigning, don't sell your vote. Your vote is about the future. Your future, the future of your son, the future of your daughter, and your well-being. I mean, if you use it right and elect good leaders, then you're going to get services that are going to ease the life in which you'll find ease in life. I mean, you have a dispensary here that doesn't have drugs. That is leadership. You have a school that doesn't have teachers. That's all about leadership. Every aspect of life in Kenya today depends on representation and service to the people. So if you want a better life, this is what IEBC should be telling Kenyans, that they should vote wisely. And all these, ethnic-based voting and all these, voter bribery and all these should all be tailored within the civic education, and even should go further, about to talk about how voting is part and parcel of being patriotic and loving your country. Yes, it should be done. I haven't been very keen to look and see whether they are doing it, but you said it very well that you haven't seen any. I believe voter education should be a huge component of the preparations for the next election, and a huge one at that. Yeah.
When we hear the things that we do, or we look into conversations that are currently happening, especially tomorrow seems to be the word dress rehearsal has been used quite often today and a couple of days, that it will show whether the IEBC is really worth its mettle in terms of what then it will be able to do tomorrow. And that it's carrying out of an election, but then also dependent on what happens through, it could then turn out also to be an indictment on a decision that was made to bring in this set of people to do this work. Do we put too much pressure or too much attention on this body when it comes to elections? Because even before anything, we've already started saying IEBC complacent here, IEBC this, that. Do we put too much pressure on this body, or do we not put enough?
Look, we have made our elections into a matter of life and death. Something that is totally different from how other progressive nations across the world look at elections. I mean, I've covered elections across the world, and you would go to place. I mean, election season in Kenya is a carnival. It is a carnival.
Yeah.
You would go to a place where there are elections, and you will not even feel a sense that there are elections. People would go out there, cast their vote, return to work after they are done. It's not even declared a national public holiday or anything. Go back to work and wait for the results, which are announced on television and in the media. And then the winning candidate holds, a celebration meeting in which they give either a concession speech or a victory speech to a group of their friends and the people who've been campaigning for them. And the next morning, it's like nothing happened. People go, people come. But here we've turned it into a life and death matter. Our political duels, are so full of pressure that the umpire, the referee of this, very emotive process, I mean, of course, there's a lot of pressure on them. Are they up to the task? Time will tell. These by-elections, of course, will give us a glimpse into, what kind of metal they're made of. We will be looking critically at the logistics part of it, as well as the confidence people would have in the results and how the elections are done. In the last election, we've had delays in materials being taken to polling stations, long queues, voting extending past midnight in some places, and all the other shenanigans. Now, are we going to see that in these by-elections in these different parts of the country? I hope not. But everything that happens from here on in, we have our eyes on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
How would there are those who do not trust IEBC due to even from the onset on how it was put in place, its constitution and all that. It was negotiated between political parties, and that alone has cast doubt on IEBC because many feel it is a vehicle for politicians for them to achieve what it is they want. But even as we speak at the moment, there is our one Mr. Okombo here is saying, I was surprised to see people being bribed a small mattress, small blanket, and 500 bob in Malava in exchange for voter bribery. These are things that are out there for anyone to see. And if IEBC is to deal first with the doubt that has been cast from how it was put in place, its constitution, and voter bribery that we continue to see, how candidates are behaving, violence all over the place, how do they deal with that for Kenyans to say, we finally trust IEBC? How should they move? How do they win those who are not converted?
Look, elections are a process. Elections are not an event that happens in a single day, that day of casting your vote. It's a process. From the moment campaigns start, how candidates are handling themselves. Are they following the law? You just talked about voter bribery. It's part of the process. And that is what election observers and monitors look at to determine whether the elections were free, fair, and credible. So in that process, bribing people with sugar, tea leaves, mattresses, as you said, and all that is part of that process that will either lead to confidence in the elections or lack of confidence. And that is why we have so many petitions after the elections. Because if some of the candidates are seeing that people have been bribed and there's been a lot of inducement and all that other voter inducement, it doesn't add on to the confidence that the process would have if in the absence of all this. So the IEBC is in charge of that process called elections. It's not just in charge of voting.
Yeah.
And the earlier the commission, I'm sure they understand. But again, as I told you, there is the theory part of it, and there is the reality part of it. As long as we have sacred cows in the politics of Kenya, no commission, no institution, no commission, no individual, however well-meaning, will be able to follow the spirit of the law.
Where do the people come into all of this? Because we talk about, blood, sweat and tears is what a lot of folks are ready to then shed and spill for getting a position, right? And that it would seem as though a body that was put in place could be manipulated in one way or another to ensure that a particular person gets into that position. What's it going to take for the will and sovereignty of the people to actually sit in the position that it ought to when these decisions are being made, when these positions are being fought for, that the will of the people is essentially sovereign to all of this? When will that actually happen? Because bribing would-be voters, if anything, it talks about the fact that you are stamping on the will of the people, that you know that people need a loaf of bread, you know that people need a kg of unga, you know that, and so you're going to give them that in order for them to get your vote.
And you might be giving it to somebody who doesn't know where the next meal is coming from.
This is it.
You understand?
So the will of the people is not taken into consideration.
No, I have worked outside this country for 17 years. And nothing prepared me for what I came back to. Look, this is part, and I will repeat again, all this, you're just talking about the symptoms of a far greater ailment. Impunity stems from the culture. And that's our national culture now, corruption. The end justifies the means. And partly, I sometimes I feel like, the law of the jungle is actually in operation. Survival for the
fittest.
And that's what we have come to. Because we've failed to look ourselves as a single unit, a nation called Kenya, that has either to rise together or fail together. That we should not leave anyone behind. Not in the allocation of resources, not in the planning of development, not in creating equity, access to resources, access to employment. Equity in education. Do we have that in Kenya?
No.
And for some of us who came out of a lot of, from a good place in our hearts to try and take part in the building of our nation, every day that you remain in this system, the political system that we have built, which some cherish so much, it hurts. It's painful. But again, we can only continue to struggle, hoping that something would give and that the Kenya we deserve is around the corner. I believe the Kenya we deserve is around the corner.
How?
And honestly, how?
With who?
I mean, even in those that you like to criticize,
Yes.
even in the ones that you think they are doing bad or are breaking a certain law, sometimes I see things that I can applaud. So we are all struggling in different directions, but we are not having enough dialogue to say, hey guys, everyone is struggling in his own direction. That's not the way to go. Because some of the greed that you see, for example, in politics, the greed, the sheer greed, you know, is because of a system. That's how you know, you come into, and I'm talking here like a journalist, you know, because I'm not holding back.
Yeah.
It's a system.
Do you reckon?
To survive, you have to play it a certain way. It's up to you whether
Yes.
you choose to join
or not?
or not. But again, that is the system.
Do you reckon that part of this system are Kenyans, that we have allowed
And I was
ourselves
about
to be
to say,
bribed?
the public are not exonerated of blame in the creation of this system.
Of this system. Which brings me to the question then. Do you reckon that as a people, as Kenyans, we have allowed ourselves to be part of the system in the sense that when a member of parliament or a would-be candidate understands what it is you need, that, like you've said, a person who's being given a kg of unga perhaps does not know where the next meal is going to come from.
Yes.
And from that as Kenyans, we have been indoctrinated into the system that we do not see our role in creating that system, and that if we fix ourselves as Kenyans and say no to bribery, that we allow our sovereignty to practice our sovereignty at the ballot and get that leader that will serve us right, perhaps even the agencies that have been put in place will have no option but to play by the rules.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't need to add anything. You explained it there so well that we've failed to think as Kenyans, and we're thinking as individuals. And I don't blame the public, because I'm not blaming anybody here. The people have been reduced to that. Those who are taking advantage of the destitution, the hopelessness, and the debilitating poverty some Kenyans are living in. I mean, you cannot be idealist when your stomach is empty. You have to be a realist. So that 2 kgs is going to feed your children who are not going to eat your idealism.
So that continues to be an indictment on a system, you're using that word again, that is already failing.
Rigged.
In its responsibility to ensure that the people of a nation are not in a position so desperate that they essentially will sell their birthright for 2 kgs of unga. This is what we're talking about.
And how lower can you go?
Because we know that there is a requirement by the laws of the land to make sure that food in the bellies of Kenyans is a given. That you should be able to eat, that you should then be able to have shelter, that you should be able to educate your children, that you should not be in a situation so desperate that when you weigh right against food, that you have to choose. And I think that's what we've done. That we've created a system so bastardized that we have to decide that should I choose what is right or wrong, or should I choose to eat that day, to live that day? That's how bad it is.
That's where we are at.
Is it too late to fix it?
No.
There's always hope.
No. And honestly, I see a great number of leaders out there, honest to God and trying to make a change. Kenyans are fond of lumping together all those politicians and just call them politicians. There are people out there who want to bring about change in Kenya, but they're not getting the right level of support. Because, again, playing it right means you are lacking much of what you need to succeed to the point where you can make an impact when it comes to changing the system. Power belongs to the people. And unless the people realize their power and demand the change that this country so much needs, then we will be living a very bad situation for the generations to come.
This election that's taking place tomorrow, this by-election actually that's taking place tomorrow, it seems to be a little bit more than a by-election, but that the influencers that would be are using this as a, or as match day to then be able to determine their position in the standings moving forward. Is it just that? Or is it more than that? Is it just a by-election, Mohammed?
In what sense do you ask?
People have camped out in Malava. People have camped out in Embu County. People have been camping out in Magarini. People have been there. And I often wonder, is it that things that were supposed to...
holders whose offices are empty.
Exactly. Is it that the work that's supposed to be done has been suspended?
We have reduced elections to a life and death matter. Why don't you leave it out to the candidates to sell their policies?
Just go it out.
Understand? Why don't you let the people decide? I don't know which slogan it was. I think it was Ford Kenya. Was it the Ford? Let the people decide. Used to be a slogan in the 90s. Listen, that is what our politics is. That is what it entails. You have to come out strong so that people see you're strong and you have won, so that you win the next duel based on the fact that you emerged. You remember the Orange Democratic Movement and where it emerged from? Winning the constitutional referendum, right? Culture of, the winner takes it all. If you win this, you would look good in the eyes of the people. That's how it's going to be.
You are in the political space, and if you look at what is happening, even in the by-election, seems as if it's a do or die situation. Is it? Is it that bad that people will have to fight it out? That we see Kenyans 3 dead in Kasipul simply because people have to get to political office.
How many people knew Charles Ongondo Were? The MP, the former MP, the late, my very good friend. Actually, we were in a committee together. Great guy. How many people knew him before this election? Well, because our politics is turning into showbiz.
Yeah.
It's entertainment, by any other name.
And even if it's entertainment, if it's I have to be there, one would ask the question, at what point does Mwananchi then become front and center, even when we are fighting for these positions? Like you said, we've taken advantage of those who are in desperate need to educate, to eat, to get shelter. And if we understand that this is the position where Kenyans are today, do we ever think of solving those problems, or is it about once I get to power, that's it?
It depends on leader. And the next one. It just depends on what your motivation was in coming to politics.
Do you think that there's motivation?
And I again, I see a lot. And I see a lot of people out there.
You need to complete that sentence. You need to complete that sentence, Mohammed, because essentially what you're saying is that there, and maybe we can actually today, the 26th of November, say it once clear, that it is very true that there are some people who put themselves up for office and couldn't give a rat's behind about sorting out things and making it better for people.
There's a lot of truth in that.
It's all about them.
No, there's a lot of truth in that. But there's a great number of others out there trying to make a real difference, to change the lot of their people. So, you don't throw the baby with the bathwater. It's a mixed bag. It looks as if those who care more about themselves than others are, having the upper hand sometimes.
Yeah.
But again, I believe it can be fixed.
So what in everything that we do, I believe that it should be progressive in terms of, getting from one place to another where the other place is better. That we often want to do this blame game where we say, well, it's the politician's fault for bribing the people, or it's the people's fault for expecting something from the politician that if the people didn't ask, the politician wouldn't give. Then on the other side, well, if the politician didn't offer it up because they knew that they were not worth their, the metal, that they wouldn't offer it. Chicken egg situation. That the people who are asking for these bribes are actually not poor. They're not hungry. That they just want to see. You
could say that too.
And you want to see if this person is actually going to give you something on that day for you to even hear what they say. Or that, I'm going to take the 2 kgs of Unga, but I'm not going to vote for you. All of these scenarios, while different, could all be true at the same time. But that these are symptoms of a system whereby we have not presented enough of a situation where we see things working right for people to understand their options. Whose responsibility is that? Is it collective? If so, whose is it?
We, the public of Kenya, I would say, because at the end of the day, Kenya belongs to all of us. This is our country. Do you have a spare country? Do.
Me?
Yes.
Yes, actually.
We don't.
But I mean,
we don't. We don't. We're stuck here.
All in
we
jest,
don't have
of
a
course.
spare country.
Yeah.
So we need to fix our country. We need to support our leaders. And I think it starts with the fact that we support our leaders, correct them along the way. I mean, if you've given somebody a 5-year term, don't start shouting one term, at the first year or the second year, because a complete picture of what they are about and how their vision has worked can be realized only after the end of the term, because that's when you are given the constitutional chance to judge and cast your ballot again to see whether you would have more of the same or you want change. We need to respect leaders. That respect is broken. We are abusing our leaders. We are looking at them as automated teller machines that you just fork out 200 shillings. So the price is much higher in my region, by the way. If you give somebody 200,
they'll give it back.
You are in trouble. Tokula Bakora, you need at least 1,000. I mean, depending on the age of the person, if he's an elder, at least 5,000. Yes, this handout culture has to stop. We need to put premium on development. We need to put premium on things that will change our lives. Not, a quick fix like 2 kg of Unga. We need to start living for beyond today.
Mohammed, I want to ask the question in 2 different ways. Do you reckon that Kenyans understand the power of their vote, what that would do to them? And does the leaders who've been given that right understand the power that they have been given by the citizenry to deliver?
It's a mixed bag once again. Some of us do understand the responsibility we've been given. I mean, in my constituency, for example, the poverty in some places is so debilitating. And we're not just talking about poverty, we're talking about existential issues, like people not having water for 60 years, not running water. The people have to drink water from ponds, which are also accessed by livestock.
And yet there are governments in place, county governments for...
And the county government is a recent phenomenon. I'm talking about government since independence. And nobody paid attention. 45 years without any water, 33 years without water, 29 years without water. Communities who have lived and were accessing water from the same water hole as their livestock. Water that's not fit for human consumption. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about kids learning under trees because they don't have classrooms and have to sit on the floor.
And this is a current reality.
It is. We're trying to change that, one day at a time. But it is a reality. And for most parts of northern Kenya, you've seen all, the schools in Turkana under a tree with a blackboard, leaning under an acacia tree, and the teacher teaching half-naked children. That is, and we're talking about universal education. We're talking about universal access to healthcare. I mean, these are just words being bandied around, but the reality, some of us are trying to change that. And I believe a good number of Kenyan leaders mean well and want to change that. But again, the public are so, stuck in these existential problems that they've learned to live for the day. Pushed to live for the day. Indoctrinated to live for the day. Conditioned to live for the day. Because they don't know where the next meal is coming from. Until we start bearing in mind the debilitating conditions in which some Kenyan communities are living under. And the imbalance in resource allocation and sharing of the national cake. There are communities in some parts of the country who have never seen a tarmac road. So communities are seeing for the first time now. The people of Kotulo in Wajir and Mandera, there are two Kotulos, by the way. The people of Tarbach are seeing tarmac for the first time. The people of Habaswein saw tarmac just 2 years ago for the first time. And if you go on TikTok, you'll see all the TikTokers, marveling at and recording videos. This should not be happening in this country. When we're talking about dueling of, roads and, creating superhighways in other parts of the country.
But you all clapped during the State of the Nation.
We did not all clap. No.
Okay, I beg your pardon. There was some clapping.
There was some clapping, yes.
In Parliament when the State of the Nation was being given, when we were told about this 28,000 kilometers of road that would be done.
But again...
And there are parts of the country that are languishing in poverty.
Look at the vision the president had. Daring to dream.
Okay.
Honestly. I really bought into what he was saying.
Okay.
That it is possible. That it can, and I don't want to be a doubting Thomas. I believe it can be done because I have watched and covered other countries
where it has happened.
It has happened. In Qatar, in 1995, when there was the coup d'etat in which the current father emir in Qatar toppled his father, he made a speech. Qatar was by then just, very small, tiny place that, still tiny, but again, right now it is a renowned nation across the world.
It's a pearl of the Gulf.
For many reasons.
Yep.
Very many good reasons. So he made a speech and said, I did this. I abhor what I did, toppling my father. I don't believe in coup d'etats. But it had to be done because this country, the capacity and the where it is right now and the potential are really, the potential is far greater than where it is right now. And I want to fix it. And I promise you, I'll make your passport one of the best in the world and your country one of the most renowned in a very short time. And he did within no time. Qatar today is the biggest exporter of liquefied natural gas. It's the second, it has got the second, the deposits, making use of the minerals in the country to turn around an economy that wasn't performing at all. Singapore, we've read the former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew's book, From Third to First World. We've seen Malaysia and, Korea and what they have done. We've seen, the Gulf countries, and all the dreaming that they're doing. Why can't we dream? Kenya is a country that can achieve great heights if we put our act together and support the leadership that is dreaming. But again, we also have to point out what is going to be an obstacle for the leadership along the way, which is why I pointed out as soon as I came out of Parliament. And I said, look, Mr. President, you're doing fantastic. I really like your idea. But first deal with corruption because that is going to waylay you.
That's true, for sure. And to then be able to look into these things and have these conversations, very important. That, yes, you can dream. A lot of what we see around the world today are the end results of dreams.
Yes.
But the dream was taken from just a dream and it was put and implemented and then into reality. Absolutely.
And that is a responsibility on all of us. Because at the end of the day, Kenya belongs to all of us.
Mohammed Adow is the Member of Parliament for Wajir South, has been here with us this morning. If anything, we can go dreaming and making sure that these things become reality. Thank you for being here this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.